Russia says 3 people are dead after a drone attack on one of its air bases. Moscow blames Ukraine. The airbase is around 300 miles northeast of Ukraine's border with Russia. The Ukrainian military have not officially commented on the attack. We'll have the latest from Moscow, also in the programme. At least 38 people have died as the severe Arctic freeze continues across the US and Canada. Shoppers are expected to spend less at the sales this Boxing Day as the cost of living bites. And the robots being sent down our water pipes to check for leaks. Good afternoon. A Russian airbase 300 miles from Ukraine has come under attack for the second time in less than a month. The Russian Defense Ministry says the Engels base in the Saratov region was targeted by a Ukrainian drone, killing 3 of its servicemen. Russia said its defences intercepted the drone, the wreckage of which caused the fatalities. The base is host to long-range Russian strategic bombers, the type of which have launched numerous missile strikes on Ukraine. From Moscow, our Russia editor Steve Rosenberg reports.
Caught on CCTV. An explosion at a Russian airbase. Russia says it shot down a Ukrainian drone, but that 3 Russian soldiers were killed. Engels airbase is deep inside Russian territory, hundreds of miles from the Ukrainian border. The base hosts long-range bombers, which are believed to have launched missile attacks against Ukraine. State TV reacted to the news with a familiar warning to Kiev. Russia, she says, would exact revenge by carrying out more strikes on Ukrainian infrastructure. Russia can rattle those sabres and flex its muscles, but it doesn't change the fact that what happened at Engels Air Base is embarrassing for the Kremlin. For the second time in less than a month, what is an important military installation has come under attack. Quite a contrast to the image of military might that President Putin's been portraying in recent days. The Kremlin leader has promised his generals all the resources they need for the war in Ukraine. He's determined to secure something he can present as a Russian victory.
Putin is not going to back off, and nobody else is going to give him a reason to back off. And therefore, he's going to take steps necessary for him to win, whatever that victory may mean for him.
But 10 months after Russia invaded Ukraine, there is no sign of that victory. Instead, the war the Kremlin started is moving closer to home. Steve Rosenberg, BBC News, Moscow.
At least 38 people are now known to have died due to the severe Arctic freeze that continues to affect the US and Canada. One of the worst hit areas is the city of Buffalo in New York State, where the governor called the storm an epic, once-in-a-lifetime event. Emily Unier has the latest.
The Arctic storm pummeling the US and Canada caused Christmas chaos for millions. Thousands of flights were cancelled and roads and railways were closed or impassable, preventing people from reaching friends and family. Emergency services battled treacherous conditions to carry out rescues, and fatalities have been confirmed in numerous states. In New York State, one of the worst hit areas was Erie County. In Buffalo City, driving was banned and at least a dozen people died.
To all who've lost a loved one, and some of those folks may not even know it yet, just you have our deepest condolences. This has just been a horrible, the worst type of storm you can imagine. And you have my deepest condolences on behalf of the people of Erie County for the loss of a loved one on Christmas Day.
Rolling blackouts left more than 1.5 million people without power on Christmas Day. Connections are now steadily being restored. In South Florida, iguanas froze and fell from trees. They won't get moving again until temperatures rise and they can thaw out. It may be a while, though. The storm is beginning to ease off, but freezing conditions are likely to continue for a little longer. Emily Unier, BBC News.
Let's get more from CBS correspondent Jared Hill, who's in New York. Jared, over to you.
Yeah, Joanna, I mean, this is has been a massive storm here in the United States. This has impacted about 60% of the U.S. population in some way, shape, or form was under some kind of winter weather advisory or warning over the course of the weekend. This has also been really difficult when it comes to holiday travel. Christmas was just yesterday. We saw about 3,000 flights here in the United States canceled on Christmas Day. About 1,400 flights have been canceled at last check for today. And this is expected to be one of the busier days for people to travel, trying to come back home or back from wherever they were visiting over the holiday weekend. And so this is going to be a long-lasting impact for this storm. Back to you.
Thank you, Jared. A woman injured in an explosion at a block of flats in Jersey earlier this month has died in hospital, becoming the 10th victim of the tragedy. Kathleen McGuinness, who was 73, died on Christmas Day. She lived in a building adjacent to the one that collapsed. Boxing Day sales are underway in high streets and shopping centres across the UK, but shoppers are expected to spend less this year as households are squeezed by the high cost of living. Katie Austin reports.
In Liverpool this morning, the shoppers were out and about early.
I was there at 7:30.
Have you got anything so far?
Yeah, I've got shoes in my car already and then clothes, so.
Get some dinner, start shopping. That's about it today.
Cost of living, you know, you've got to grab a bargain.
These days, not all retailers open on Boxing Day. Some started their sales well before Christmas, and more customers choose to buy online. But for this big shopping centre in Liverpool, it's still a crucial week.
It's very important for retailers and ourselves. Boxing Day gives the retailers the chance to clear some of that stock that they perhaps didn't sell before Christmas. It gets the price reduced, which makes it much better for the customer. Boxing Day is actually one of the quieter days of the week. It builds up throughout this week into some quite extraordinary numbers.
Cost of living pressures are expected to put a dampener on spending this year, but the manager of this store is optimistic.
People are just being a bit more savvy with the money. I think people are now looking into what they're buying a lot more than they used to be, but we are still trading quite well as a lot of retailers. You look around the high street and you still see a large amount of people around spending money as well.
A company that tracks how many people are out in shopping areas thinks footfall will be lower than pre-pandemic levels, but better than last year.
January, February, March, so the first quarter of 2023 is going to be quite tricky for a lot of people, but I think this first Christmas post-COVID, people are making the most of it and will be making that most of the sale period as well.
Those planning to travel to the shops or anywhere else in person will find the few trains which normally run on Boxing Day are going nowhere as RMT members at Network Rail continue strike action.
And the roads are expected to be busy as well, both with shoppers and with football fans going to those Boxing Day games. The AA predicted that more than 15 million cars would be out on UK roads today. Here in Oxford Street, a major retail destination in central London, things have picked up. It is now getting very busy here, both with locals and tourists coming out to see what is on offer. The Boxing Day sales may not be quite the event they once were, but retailers are hoping that after a tricky year that those heavy discounts can attract the customers, whether it's here in stores or online.
Thank you, Katie. South Korea says it has scrambled fighter jets and attack helicopters to try to shoot down several unmanned drones flown into its airspace by North Korea. Around 100 rounds were fired from helicopters, but this failed to bring any of them down. One of the drones was reported to have flown close to the South's capital, Seoul, prompting the temporary closure of 2 major airports. Scientists have developed miniature robots called pipe bots to patrol our water supply network to check for faults and prevent leaks. About 3 billion litres of water are lost every day through leaks across hundreds of thousands of kilometres of water pipes in England and Wales. That's according to the water industry's regulator, Ofwat. Researchers say maintaining those underground pipes will be impossible without robotics. Here's our science correspondent, Victoria Gill.
The water company here in Essex has detected a leak, but to find its location and fix it, they'll need to dig through a complex maze of pipes.
Basically, we have a 9-inch cast iron water main that runs down the whole street, and we've got a leak on the back of the T. But the sewer's sitting on top of our main, and we've also got a gas pipe in the top of the hole, and we've obviously got bands of electric over the back of the hole, which makes it very difficult for us.
This team's been digging on this site, investigating for 4 days now, and they still haven't pinpointed exactly where this leak is. Across England and Wales, about 20% of the water supply is lost through leaks. That is steadily decreasing, but water companies say finding the smallest leaks is one of their biggest challenges. The water industry's economic regulator Ofwat says leakage in England and Wales is now at its lowest level ever. But 3 billion litres per day is still lost to leaky pipes. That's enough to fill more than 1,000 Olympic-sized swimming pools. Companies have agreed to cut that wasted water in half by 2050, and Ofwat says more needs to be done.
We've covered off all of the kind of big leaks that people will see. It's the smaller leaks, so this one wasn't visible, and it's more and more of those leaks that we need to find to really drive down that leakage performance. No one wants to see water wasted, but it's new innovations that are going to really drive that leakage down.
Innovations like these. These are pipe bots, water main patrolling robots being developed in a lab at Sheffield University.
This is a camera and lights, and there is a little microphone.
The sensor-laden robots are small enough to travel through a pipe and check for damage.
It's a very long network. It's about 1 million kilometers. So in order to understand what's going on in the pipe, we need to have a presence of robots in these pipes, so we can continuously collect data about onset of faults.
The first teams of artificially intelligent pipe bots could be put to work underground within 5 years. The tiny machines are designed to be deposited into manholes, then search for faults and cracks before pipes burst or leak.
If you think about the state of our infrastructure, it is so urgent to do something. It's underground, it's inaccessible. These are some of the most inhospitable environments on Earth. Without robotics, we're just not going to be able to do it.
Essex and Suffolk Water is also testing sealants that can be injected into pipes to plug leaks without having to dig. But with the smallest leaks still so difficult to locate, for now, they'll have to keep excavating. Victoria Gill, BBC News.
Now, time for a look at the weather. Here's Thomas Schaffenacker. Season's greetings, Thomas. And
Same to you.
I know that some areas did have a white Christmas.
Yeah, they did. The Met Office confirmed today that, in fact, yesterday, actually, Loch Glascarnock was the first place that got the snow yesterday, and then it progressively turned white across the Highlands. Here's actually a picture from Lanarkshire, so it's been snowing here too. And actually, the snow showers are continuing into Boxing Day as forecast, actually quite icy across parts of Scotland and the Pennines in the next day or so. And for many of us, it is quite a chilly day. We have a brief incursion of colder air from the northern climes, this colder northwesterly, so the chilly air has spread into northern France as well. I mean, the temperatures aren't low. I mean, they're sort of maybe a degree or so, even above average there in London, but it's the breeze that's noticeable. It's colder in Scotland, sure, 3 or 4 Celsius peaking this afternoon. But I think the snow showers will continue, mostly sleety around the coast, but inland and across the hills, around 200 metres or so. Certainly a good covering, 2 or 3 centimetres, maybe 10 centimetres at most, and quite blustery conditions too. But eventually tonight, the snow showers will become few and far between. The winds will die down, the skies will clear, and there is a touch of frost on the way, particularly across northern and eastern parts of the UK, around freezing in Hull, 1 degree above freezing in central London as well. But this brief cold snap's not going to last very long, because the next low pressure with milder air is arriving. And here's the weather front. Here's the area of low pressure here sweeping in off the Atlantic. It is going to bump into the colder air across Scotland, so there will be temporary or transient snow, as we call it, in the Highlands. Really unpleasant conditions here, maybe some sleetiness across the Pennines, but eventually in Northern Ireland the rain will clear come the afternoon. And the last place to see the rain tomorrow, I think, will be Kent, parts of East Anglia too. So Tuesday evening looks distinctly wet in the south, across the Midlands, East Anglia, whereas further west the skies should clear. And actually, as we head through the course of the week, we are going to see multiple areas of low pressure sweeping off the Atlantic. We are entering a very turbulent spell of weather in the week ahead. Here's another, or this week, here's another area of low pressure sweeping in through Wednesday, outbreaks of rain. But with these southwesterlies come very mild conditions. So again, 11 in Liverpool, colder in northern parts of Scotland. And this is the outlook. So New Year's Eve would be Saturday night. Look at the temperatures. We're just nudging into the teens now across some southern areas. Further north, single figures. But I think we really have to be prepared for some pretty nasty conditions at times with gale force winds and heavy rain, some rough seas as well. And it does look as though the unsettled spell of weather will continue into the new year as well. Joanna, it's back to you.
Thank you very much, Thomas. And there's more throughout the day here on the BBC News channel. It's just about all from us for now. We're back with the late news at 6:20. Now on BBC News, it's on BBC One. It's time for the news where you are. Bye-bye from us.